This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. And for those of you on Zoom, I'm going to do my best to keep it on speaker view, so you will not be visible on YouTube. I have to get there to do it, though. Who knew it would take an advanced degree in computers to teach Dharma? Come on now. Gallery speaker. There we go. Yeah. Quick perusal. It is a bad hair day. There we go. Well, hi. How nice of you, those of you that made it to come here. It's funny with everyone. We're in the living room at PIMC because our furnace died. Two furnaces died, and in fact, we were setting off into a fundraising appeal, but the fundraising appeal now starts with a $12,000 furnace installation, which I would like to brag for a moment. We got a bid for 11.8. and 2 other bids for 16. And I did what I do in such circumstances. I was just chatting them up. And I asked the guys, the fellow that said they could do it for 11.8 in 2 or 3 weeks. And I said, how can you do this for $4,000 less than the other bids? And he had some ideas. And then I talked to one of the $16,000 bids and asked him, how come you cost so much more than these other? What are you doing that they're not? And he said, well, we can't do it on Monday. And but I looked up the kind of furnaces they put in, and basically they're the same furnace, and also their the stars thing, the reviews. And one of them, the more expensive one, was a more substantial company. They'd been in business 25 years, which is important. And then I talked to some board members, and we decided to go with the less expensive one and wait 2 or 3 weeks. And oh, thanks for the flowers. Bring them up, okay? Do bring them up. We can hide this TV more. I couldn't find a cloth to. Oh, wait a minute. It's all right. Here, let's have an orchid and those. No, I don't. I got one here. All right. Thank you, my dear. How nice to see you. I'm telling the story of my bargaining. And just as I was about to call and tell the $11,800 bid that we were going to go with him, a text came in, and the guy said, I talked to my boss, and we'll do it on Monday for 12. So anyway, and it's like I didn't even really have the sense I was haggling. I've done that. I mean, I've lived in Asia, but but being really honest with them, it brought that through. So he said, what it means is I will not be getting a commission. And I said, well, that's not right. Tell me your address and you'll get a commission by the back channel. And he said, oh, I don't need to do that. I'm plenty busy and so on. So I said, all right, I'll send you my book. And so he's going to get my book in the mail. We'd had a conversation about karma. And he said, I'm very attentive to my karma, and this is good karma to give a deal to a Buddhist meditation center. So, all right. This is the Robert you get when I am very well rested and have been on retreat for a week and had a cup of coffee. He's mildly manic and remarkably happy. Remarkably happy. And he's on day 6 of a complete news fast. And I think I'm going to continue. It's very interesting that the whole soap opera of the world to not have it top of mind. Historically, I get up in the morning and I read the news for 15 minutes. That's very different from reading a Dharma book. Very interesting effect on me. Okay, so let's do what we came here to do. I did not prepare a poem as I like to do, but I'm going to just pull one up to see what pops up here. Oh, I know what I'll do. This is the last chapter in my book, which is Mindfulness for a Happy Life. And here's a context. For those of you on Zoom, this what we're about to do is really easy. For those here in the room, to the degree that it's comfortable for you, I invite you to look around the room. It'll require turning around in those straight rows and see who's here. See and discover there's other one of a kind ever in the universe human beings. And so this poem relates to what we just did in a way. It arose on an airplane coming back from New Orleans several years ago. My wife Jennifer went to university in New Orleans, and long time ago. And she's gone back many times now to go to the Jazz Fest with her best friend since preschool. And a couple of years ago, she invited me to go so she could show me her places. And we went and we had a wonderful time, and the music was stunning. And then it was time for me to come home, and we stayed in a bed and breakfast elsewhere in the city, and her friend was staying in a fancy big hotel downtown. So we got up early in the dark, and a taxi came, and then we rode to the basement of the entrance to the hotel, and then we got out of the taxi, and we had a very brief kiss, and she turned to leave, and I got in the taxi. And then I got on the plane, and I changed planes in Kansas City, and then an hour or two later, flying over the Rockies, I got up and went to the restroom, and on the way back to my seat, this poem came almost complete. It just came. So it goes like this. It's called 33,000 feet. People sleep, watch videos, play games on screens, and sip at wine. Flying west over snow-covered mountains, a chasm opened, or perhaps just revealed itself, with a taxi goodbye kiss. That moment of looking away one plane change ago, it's always the same. Here and then not here. It's that simple, those moments that we actually have when we can touch, hear, see, and smell one another are all we really have. The stakes are high, aren't they? Either we connect and love one another now or not at all. Right. That moment of looking away one plane change ago, it's always the same. Here and then not here. It's that simple. Those moments that we actually have when we can touch, hear, see, and smell one another are all we really have. The stakes are high, aren't they? Either we connect and love one another now or not at all. And I would say that begins right now, or continues right now. Either we connect with ourselves now and love ourselves now, or it doesn't happen. So we have this incredible body of teachings from the Buddha, all based in there's a word for it, the Buddha saying, try to live in the present moment. Try to live in the present moment. So let's do that for a little while. Finding a comfortable upright posture. And noticing the aliveness of the body. And there's a preamble sort of common in the Buddhist world, which is to remind ourselves of the refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Now, there was an actual Buddha person, but that's not really, or that's not foremost what refuge in the Buddha is. It is refuge in that, in us, which is the Buddha, which is awakening. We take refuge in the Dharma, in the teachings, and more fundamentally in what actually is right now. What's true right now? And we take refuge in the Sangha, our community of practice here, but also, and perhaps more fundamentally, in the lineage of human beings who have done exactly what we are and awakened to their true nature. And if we, in fact, actually land here and now, what do we find? What do you find? There is a living body, which is life. It's not the idea of some body, it's not some image. It's actually, what is life like where the buttocks and thighs press into the chair? Can awareness meet the sensations in the hands and be alive? Can awareness awaken in what we call the face? And what about this mysterious in-breathing and out-breathing? Each breath has a beginning. It has a rising to fullness. The chest and abdomen rise. The air rushes in through the nostrils. It has a decline, a falling. The air rushes out through the nostrils. Practicing mindfulness of in-breathing and out-breathing is an incredibly powerful foundation. It brings us out of the fantasy world of the mind into the reality of physicality. When the mind is stabilized, it's possible to open the field of view and to know the entire body at one moment, or perhaps to experience the feet and legs, the temperatures, the fingers and hands and arms, the face, the eyes and the forehead and the scalp. It's all alive. And in addition to the physicality of the body, there are all the activities of mind, thoughts, memories, plans. At the beginning, people tend to think that the wandering mind is a problem. They somehow hear the instructions to get rid of it. This is a fool's errand. Our path to awakening begins in ahimsa, in nonviolence, non-coercion, in love, and continues in that fashion all the way. And so there's an undercurrent or an underpinning to our entire approach to practice, which is profound acceptance and equanimity. When the mind is wandering and mindfulness awakens to it, with no coercion, with no pressure, simply return to the breath. There's no way to do this wrong. There might be some mood present, happy or sad or worried or joyful, just discontent or quite content. Acknowledge this. Mm. we are so close, so familiar with the experience of being alive, that we take it quite for granted. And of course, it's anything but. And there's this profound thread through all of the Buddha's teachings, which invites us to be aware, to be mindful, heart mindful, instead of taking for granted, becoming profoundly curious. There's a body. There's also knowing the body. And this knowing it co-arises with the body, but they're different. And while awareness cannot look at itself, there's a tacit knowing we can have. Oh, awareness is here. And so the conditioned mind, the ordinary human mind, spends most and perhaps almost all of its time in fantasy, in memories, in plans, in an imagined future or now an imagined past. And there's a central experience which becomes more and more obvious. And that is that the mind inhabits, generates all kinds of trance states. Mostly they consist of the song of the self. I, me, mine, mine, mine. This is my past, this is my future, these are my thoughts. This is my feeling, my emotion. And there's a awakening and a waking up from these truly delusions. And then somehow they are suddenly or naturally illuminated as thoughts, as wandering mind. Oh, right, wandering again. And these moments of awakening are the Buddha. They are that which knows. And since one strategy is to use the breath as a home base, we can then return to the sensations of breathing. And the breathing is very tactile, isn't it? It's very earthy. And we're not doing some special breathing, something we've learned how to do a better breathing. We're just actually allowing the body to breathe itself. And it does. It has successfully done this ever since that fateful moment when she who played the role in this lifetime of your mother could no longer breathe for you. Imagine that for 9 months, someone else breathed for you. And you made the marvelous, magic transition from not breathing to gasping in. And you've done that ever since. Unless you've perhaps been on a heart-lung machine. But your body breathes all by itself. And will do so until the lease on this body expires, and then on an out-breath, breathing stops. And in the interim, whenever we pay attention, here it is. The sensations of breathing. In the insight meditation, Satipatthana Vipassana, where Vipassana means perceiving reality as it really is. We observe that the breath is impermanent. Thoughts are impermanent. Moods are impermanent. Being present is impermanent. Liking and disliking, Vedana, is impermanent. Perceptions are impermanent. All mental phenomena, mental formations, all of our psychological and emotional structures are impermanent. And our journey takes us to the realization that impermanence is, in fact, the Dharma. Utter impermanence. And from the level of the experience of ego or self, this is a terrifying possibility, truth. From the level of reality, it is the most marvelous release. because there's no need to struggle at anything. In that tuning in which there is an experience of a self, it's skillful to cultivate and realize a loving attitude, metta. And there's a marvelously simple practice, which is to consider the contemplation, I love you, with your name at the end. I love you, you one of a kind, ever in the universe being. Billions of years before you arrived and billions after you go. And for this time, this few moments flashing into existence, I love you with your name at the end. And maybe the words don't mean much, but you can just rest into a sense of warmth or kindness toward yourself. Or you could imagine that sitting at the center of your heart, shaped exactly like you, is an imaginary golden being who happens to be the Buddha or Kuan Yin or any chosen ideal. And from this golden archetype, flows love, kindness, compassion into your heart, into your spleen and liver and pancreas, your stomach, your intestines, down into your legs, feet, upwards into the lungs, the trachea, the neck, the fingers and hands, up into the face, the arms, the ears, the scalp. This love can flow into your emotional being, all of your neurotic patterns and sufferings. I love you with your name at the end. I love you including all your unfinishedness, your struggles. And we can let this golden being grow until their body is exactly contiguous with your own. Every pore, every hair identical. And you can let yourself become the Buddha, become Kuan Yin, become Mary or Krishna or Jesus, any archetype. And then feel how your body at the surface tingles, is warm, and you become a radiator of the highest blessings. To everyone in this room, to everyone in your room at home, to all of our friends and relatives, to all beings to the north of us and the south of us, all beings to the east and the west, all beings above and below, In fact, all there is love. And we can rest back into that. And in this way, the awakening to metta and karuna, love and compassion, becomes identical to vipassana. All things are as they are. And there's no resistance. And coming home once again into the sensations of the body, aware of the body, now aware of where the body touches the chair, aware of the knowing of that. And please now become aware of your head. From the neck into the jaw and the lips and the cheeks and the eyes and the forehead, the ears and the scalp. It's alive, isn't it? And there's knowing of it. And notice the intention, a prompted intention, to allow the left ear to slowly move in the direction of the left shoulder, leaving the shoulders completely relaxed, letting the ear approach the left shoulder. At some point, there will be some resistance. Notice those sensations. You can still stay aware of your breath from time to time. And now allowing the head, notice the intention first, it doesn't move without the intention. Allowing the head to slowly, slowly roll forward toward your chest. But be in no hurry. And this resting downwards eventually begins to climb up on the right side, leaving both shoulders completely relaxed. And then we come to that place where the right shoulder is being drawn by gravity to or rather the right ear is being drawn to the shoulder, leaving the shoulder as relaxed as you can. Let your breathing continue. And maybe let the body lean a little bit over this way. Let the spine stretch to the right a bit. Perhaps you can feel the stretch in this back and side. It goes all the way down to the spine, to the sacrum, leaning to the right. And now from here, slowly rolling forward again, letting the spine bend again. But we're not getting anywhere. The journey is the purpose of the awareness practice. Take your time, enjoy the sometimes pleasant, sometimes unpleasant sensations. What a relief to not be in a hurry. What a relief to know there's no way to do this wrong. And eventually the body is leaning to the left. The breathing continues, and notice how the stretch can go all the way down into the sacrum, the low back. Let your breath come and go. Awareness and sensations. And of course, the mind may well wander, in which case, come home back to the body, leaning, breathing. And letting now, once again, the body move to the front, but letting extend down and forward at the same time. No hurry. And letting the head hang, bending from the waist if your body will allow that. There's nowhere to get to other than right here. And when you get way over to the right side, letting the body hang that way. Letting it hang way out of the waist. Letting the left side of the back get a stretch. And now let's continue on, only if your neck and back will tolerate it, to continue this journey, stretching from the neck, letting your head go back, but very slowly. Very slowly, and notice the experience of the stretch, which is, are those sensations pleasant, unpleasant, or not yet determined, or neutral? And take it all the way over to the left shoulder. And continuing around to the front where the head can come to hanging toward the floor. And now, mindful of the sacrum and slowly rolling up one vertebra on top of the other. Until the head is balanced, as much at peace with gravity as possible on the shoulders. And maybe move it a little bit, turning left, right, front, back. Find the place of balance. And please now, notice the life in the face, the cheeks, the lips, the tongue, the eyes. And with the eyes, notice that it's possible to form the intention to have them roll around inside their sockets. There's a very interesting visualization we can do in doing this, which is to remember what a skull looks like. There's those pretty profound orbits, those holes. This is where the eyes live. And now noticing the intention again to let these eyes open. And then operationalize that intention and then let seeing happen. Seeing colors, shapes. And the perceptual process names things. Oh, it's a picture, it's a person, it's a computer. And now with great presence and delicacy, become aware of how your body would like to stretch. And let that movement begin, but do it all slowly. Notice the first thing to move. Notice, is there an image in mind of where the movement's going? And let yourself twist if that's what's longed for. I encourage you to not do the things you usually do. Instead, notice what the body's calling for. Stretching, no less mindful than sitting. Sitting and seeing. And dear friends on Zoom, I want to see you for a little while, so I'm going to ask you to do this. If you don't want to be visible on YouTube, go to and on my screen it's, how do you do it? How do you make yourself invisible? Oh, stop video, duh, there it is, down bottom left. And that will still leave your name. If you really want to get rid of that, then you would need to go, I forget where. Anyway, So in about 30 seconds, I'm going to go to community view. Those of you here in the room who would like to have yourself not show up, please put on your invisibility cloak. I hear they're selling them now, Harry Potter stores. Actually, they are. All right, here we go. Be funny if everyone was gone on Zoom, right? We've had it. We're out of here. Gallery. Oh, there you all are. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hope you're over there. Huh. Wow, lots of you. Huh. How nice. Oh, familiar morning people. Hello, Jim, you scallywag, not coming just because your car battery's dead. That's really a weak. Is it your starter battery or the battery of the Prius?
It's a hybrid Honda, and it's reached the end of its life.
Oh.
Not the starter at all.
I see. I'm going to mute here. I got to go turn off the sound on. I'll just leave it. Well, I'm going to turn it off. I got to, here we are, YouTube sound. How do I do that? I don't know. Shoot. Oh, what about this? Search with no. Jamie, would you please send me a text of how I turn off the sound on YouTube? Thank you for the tech support. All right, there we are. I'm feeling very adept, except I can't figure out how to turn off this sound on YouTube. Oh, I think I did. Check and see. I think I need to do it, or I can do it on, oh, you have no idea. That's not very helpful. All right, I think I know how to do it. I just go to, because we're using loopback. All right, so that is Safari. All right, bam, gone. Yes. Now that makes me feel adept. All right. Hi, everybody in both worlds. First thing I'd like to announce is that Connie is here. Hello, Connie. We let Connie go home at night sometimes, but she lives most of her life here in the library, which she takes care of. And we have a marvelous library, which I invite you to take books out of. And there's a book here that we must have more of these, because this got out into the free pile.
Oh, we do. We have at least 3 copies.
All right. So this book was owned by, whoa, look at this. Oh my God. Here's a check for $160 I never cashed. Do you think it's still good? October 19, 2011. Well, did he hide more money in the book? That's funny. Well, anyway, this was. I just donated another tranche of them to the. This actually was a gift from Genevieve. Dear Robert, I wish I had something witty to say, but who knows? Thank you for the blessings you bring, Genevieve, in 2002. That was before we moved into the building here. So anyway, this book is in the giveaway place, and it's Joseph Goldstein's One Dharma. Joseph was very deeply trained in Theravada Buddhism, and then he encountered the Tibetans. And it would seem as though some of the teachings are contradictory. And they're only contradictory if you don't recognize the paradox of the non-dual and the relative, which may make sense to some of you. So anyway, I offer this up. I'm going to put it right here. Whoever grabs it first after we're finished, it's yours. Okay, I have several announcements. First one is, I'm really glad you're here. I'm really glad I'm here, for that matter. I just had 6 days to be silent at the beach. Thank you to the person who lets me use her beach house for that purpose. I went there pretty tired, pretty longing for rest. And after 2 or 3 days, things got pretty clear. These teachings of the Buddha are the most exquisite thing ever. I'm reading for the teacher training group a marvelous book called Mindfulness by Joseph Goldstein. And if you've not read it and you want to practice mindfulness seriously, not seriously, but I highly recommend it. It's his, he gave 43 hour-long talks to people who were on at least 3-month and more like 6-month retreats at the Insight Meditation Society over 3 years, starting at the beginning of the Satipatthana Sutra. And then from those 43 talks, he created this book. And I had an opportunity to speak with him about a year or so after it was published. Ruth Dennison, my teacher, our great benefactress, was giving him a beautiful bronze bust of the Buddha, a head of the Buddha. And so there were shipping issues. And so I called him up and I was able to thank him. He's been such an important teacher for me. But I thanked him for the book. And he said, rather grumpily, "I'm glad you like it. It almost killed me." So anyway, that's my plug for Joseph Goldstein's mindfulness and the intricate way the teachings fit together. And I've been at this for 51 years. And I'm reading, I feel teary now. I'm understanding it. It feels like for the first time. I said, wow, who knew this was so exquisitely intertwined? The deeper one goes, the more it all makes sense. And the simpler it is, really. So then, announcement-wise, we are in the living room because the 2 furnaces that heat the Dharma Hall are dead. One of them died, and then when the pros came to examine it and fix the other one, they discovered that the other one has a crack in the heat exchanger, and they said, we cannot legally fire this one up again for liability purposes. So we suddenly had to I told you some of the story of purchasing it. We were already working on a fundraising letter, which will be coming to you. And now the first paragraph is going to be a little different, which is we have a rather urgent push for raising an extra $12,000. However, well, that's enough of that. The Donna Bowl is there if you want to contribute while you're here this week, or you can go online and make a contribution there. So more will be revealed about that. On the 29th of November, I'd like to point out that I remembered the date, which is very impressive to me. On the 29th of November, there will be a Zoom-only community meeting. And it's I guess we had one about 2 years ago. It's a once-a-year meeting in which you can participate and find out a lot of what's happening in the community and our plans going forward. Yeah, there'll be a report from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion team, and I guess I can talk about this. I am 75 years old. I wrote the board about 6 months ago, a very dramatic, I love writing dramatic letters. And the letter began, "I am going to die." And you know what? I am. I don't have a terminal medical diagnosis. I feel sadness. But I was born. And I have no plans on disappearing from PIMC. I intend to keep teaching, but over the next 2 or 3 years, maybe shorter, we are actively already engaging in a process of succession. How do we do that? How do we have Robert leave and have the place flourish? And we could do that. Many places don't do that well, and then there's a panic. But we're intending to do it really well and have there be no panic. And I will, over the next couple of years, start to have the time that I want in my life to do my inner work that I'm really looking forward to. So please don't fear. I'm not disappearing. And but we're going to do a community-wide process of how do we do this. And there'll be more at the meeting too. I'm just got pulled into who's here. Hi. Other announcements. The first Saturday of December, I'm going to be offering a hybrid, Zoom and in person, day-long retreat called A Map for the Journey. And I have an operational map of what spiritual practice is about, where we begin and where we're headed toward. And every tradition, every spiritual tradition has a map of a sort. Some of them are very highly developed, like the Theravadan Buddhist one is exquisite. My map includes also a fair dollop of Jungian psychology. Carl Jung, among Western psychologists, took the practice, took psychotherapy, took it beyond developing a well-functioning self into going beyond the self, into the transpersonal. And so his psychology mixed with Buddhism is a really incredible combination. So that's been my operational hypothesis for 25 years. And I've never done a workshop on it, but this will be a day of sharing the map. And it'll be very practical too. For instance, we start crazy, right? Have you noticed? You sit down and try to pay attention to your breath and you can hardly find it. Or our lives are chaos. We keep marrying the same person again and again. How does that happen? Another alcoholic, how could that be? And then we learn to practice and we discover the 5 hindrances and they're all over the place. And then we get trained, here's the 7 enlightenment factors and they are powerful and they uproot, they suppress as well the 5 hindrances and so on. That there's a developmental process which is very natural for human beings. So I'll be sharing that then. Doug Pullen is doing, I meant to look this up. Doug Pullen is doing a practices of the heart, development of the heart, starting in a few weeks. The DEI folks are doing a new book in January. I can't remember the title right now, but you can find all this on the website, our wonderful new website that actually you can find things on. And then Candle teaches every second Sunday night, or first and third, the diversity, equity, the BQN, the Be Queer Now group meets on Sunday nights. That's tonight at 6:30, both of those. And Candle. Jim teaches online and here. Jim is teaching a Qigong workshop soon. I think that's all I'm going to say. There's a lot of stuff happening, and you're most welcome to participate in it. Wave frantically, Jim, if I've forgotten anything big. Say again?
No, I don't have a frantic wave in me right now. I think it's quiet.
Thank you. All right. I want to change the camera. There, that's better. How are you? How's your mood right now? How's the mood that you take to be yours? How's the body? You sure are beautiful. For those of you here in the room, you can look over there. There's a couple of pictures. There's the ones on the right. One is, oh, why did I turn off the sound? Is the sound off on YouTube? Oh, shoot. I get it. Thank you, Jamie. I did it because we had an echo, but that doesn't work for the YouTube recording. Ah, well, there we go. The YouTubers missed the announcements, poor things. Thanks, Jamie. I thought it was just in-house. I could turn that off. So, what if we were to become aware of sitting and then the intention to stand? One of the crazy beliefs, maybe it's not so crazy, but that we really need to get over is the idea that meditation means sitting cross-legged and doing nothing. You know, now I'm going to do my meditation for the day. That's crazy, because meditation isn't a posture, it isn't it isn't an activity, it's an attitude of consciousness. So let's notice the intention to stand. And now let's stand, but let's do it slowly. Oh, I was drawing your attention to the pictures. Ruth Dennison, there's another one of the two of us here. Ruth was a genius around movement meditation. She introduced movement meditation really to the Western Theravada world. And she was a dancer. We once on retreat, I get teary. We stayed up late almost every night on retreat. And one time she put on a beautiful Strauss waltz and waltzed me. I wasn't much of a waltzer, but she could really dance. So we're not going to dance, but let's notice how it is to stand, to be sitting, and then to bring awareness into the feet and legs, and then what moves first? And let's find our way to standing. But do it slowly. Notice the feelings in the body, the sensations, the stiffnesses. Standing. And let us be attentive to the feet and the legs, all the life in the pelvis. The sacrum and the belly, the sides, the life from the pubic bone up into the chest, the solar plexus. Become aware of the hands and fingers. It's not a picture of the hands and fingers, it's the life of the hands and fingers, and thumbs and forearms, elbows, upper arm, shoulders, back, standing. Aware of the neck, the jaw, The cheeks, the nose, the eyes, forehead, scalp. And notice what we could call the small dance. The body doesn't stand still. I had the opportunity recently to watch I think he was about 1 year old, 1 year, to watch a little person make his first steps. I've seen that twice before with my own children, but it's mind-boggling. To get you manage to stand up and then poof, crashing down and standing up, and then balance happens. Notice your breath. And notice how it would be if you were to form the intention and then slowly, slowly let the weight of the body come into the right foot. As the left foot then becomes lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And let it get so light that it almost lifts off the ground, but doesn't. Maybe the sock comes up in the shoe, or just slightly off the floor, and then leaning back the other way. So the weight slowly, slowly moves into the left foot. At some point, the right foot begins to become lighter on the floor and the pressure is reducing as the pressure picks up on the left foot. Standing on one foot, balancing a little bit with the right foot. The mind may well wander, but so what? Awareness awakens to it and then comes back. And now leaning, going the other way. No hurry. In fact, perhaps the slower the better. Once again, this left foot becomes very light on the ground. Notice how balance works through the right foot and leg. And one more time, slowly shifting to the left. And notice the quality, what happens in the wandering mind. It truly isn't a problem that it wanders. It's getting identified with it that creates the complications. And now leaning once again, shifting once again to the right. Slowly, slowly, notice the intention, and then it happens. And then when that left foot becomes weightless, letting it lift off the floor. I have zero balance without my eyes open, so maybe you want to let your eyes open. Then there's this balancing on the right foot, touching the left one down to help yourself when you need to. Feel the way the quads work. And now slowly, slowly going over to the left one. When we're doing this movement practice, it's really a consciousness training. Let that right foot become super light and then Slowly, slowly let it lift off the floor. And then at some point, let it go back again. And we come to standing. And let's allow the body initiate, actually. It doesn't do it on its own. Allow it to begin to sway to left and right. And remember the wonderful reality, which is that there's no way to do it wrong. There's no test. There's not even a form to it, really. And notice how your head and body move through space. And this space offers no resistance. The swaying goes all the way to one side, and then it decelerates, and then it stops. And then it sways to the other side. And then it stops. A sound occurs. It's a furnace blower. Hearing. Swaying now to the left again. Feel the pressure build up in the foot. And to the right. Notice any impatience. And notice whether the mind takes to this, or is there resistance? Is this really meditation? And now let us allow the swaying to become more expressive in a way. Let yourself twist, but don't leave the body. Notice if you're going to twist, there's an intention ahead of time. Twisting. And let it twist and perhaps bend a little bit. So we start being a little creative, a little outside the box. Maybe a shoulder drops or another shoulder drops. Maybe you discover somewhere that has some resistance and some hurting. There's that good kind of hurting which says, stretch me. And that other kind which says, don't dare. And so letting yourself sway. When you get lost in the wandering mind, come back. And the other day I was at the beach. There'd been quite a storm, and there was quite a lot of kelp on the beach. And if you're familiar with kelp, at the bottom, it has what's called a holdfast, which attaches appropriately to the rocks. And then there's a long stalk, which is hollow, and then there's a bulb on the end, and then there are fronds, kelp fronds. So to the degree that it's comfortable for you, let your arms become lighter and let them find their way up into being kelp fronds. And let your movement be as it might be in a slight restlessness of ocean. And let there be a stretching to it, hands up and back. Letting the currents be rather gentle, but in many directions. sensations. And notice if fatigue comes along and you want to rest, of course, do that. Or maybe stay with the fatigue and discover that it's not personal even, it's just sensations. Let your breathing continue. And let the sea become a little more turbulent and let yourself move this way and that way, perhaps unpredictably. And if you feel like letting your eyes open and experiencing others in your colleagues in the kelp forest, please do that. Who knew that kelp could be so conscious? And now let's let there be a November storm and the kelp get to do whatever they do. Keep your hold fast tight on the floor, maybe tighten your toesies. And I hope you at home are doing this too. I forgot to ask you to, but oh, there you are, a few of them. Yeah, good. And let's let it get really frantic. There's big waves and wind, and oh, the tides are really powerful too. Oh. Maybe you can feel the moon pulling you this way or that. And the arms get tired, don't they? Oh, boy. How does the kelp do it? And now slowly let us let this kelp thing pass away and become once again a human being. Standing. I invite to the altar of our hearts Ruth Dennison, who's been gone for 6 years. She, our great benefactress, without whom this center would not exist. Without whom I would not exist in the form that I am. 44 years, she was my teacher and then colleague and dear friend. My other mother. And please now take a few moments to stretch in any way that you can, given the space you have and that you want to, and then we'll find ourselves sitting again. I think there's a restroom run happening. Let's just be for a few minutes till the restroom runners get back. I got to look something up here too. I got that. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we can always plop into the body. The spiritual practice, the primary spiritual practice of our time is to plop into our phones. I think I'll check my email, or I've never used I don't know if it's Snapchat. I don't know. My stepkids had all the apps. And there's this movement of the thumb when you're quickly going through, and then they stop and then they laugh a little bit. And it's this constant high speed stimulation. I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. Is TikTok like that? I noticed on my retreat, a 100 times, maybe more. I'd get up from sitting, do a little dancing. I did some great fun dancing. And then I'd be getting ready to make a meal. And the impulse would be there to turn on NPR. Right? Is it that boring to make a meal? Well, sort of it is. But not when you get interested. It gets more and more. But the addiction is very powerful. And I use that word advisedly. I think it is an addiction. All right. Come back to the other camera. Yes, it worked. Hi again, friends on Zoom. Wow. Okay. Well, I have a hunch, a plan even. We're missing. Oh, you're there. Okay, good. I spent quite a bit of time in the last week swimming around in the 5 aggregates, and I think I'm going to talk about that. But there's something else came to my attention, and it's a contextual piece for me. So, you ready? How many of you remember Captain Kirk? He wasn't real. William Shatner was real. And he went into space on one of those things. Kind of absurd, actually, really. It's like a carnival ride with incredible pollution. So, I'm not going to read you the title because it gives away the surprise, sort of. So I went into space, and I will cry as I read this, so bear with me, please. Our group, consisting of me, tech mogul Glenn DeVries, Blue Origin Vice President and former NASA International Space Station Flight Controller Audrey Powers, and former NASA engineer Dr. Chris Bojuin, had done various simulations and training courses to prepare, but you can only prepare so much for a trip out of Earth's atmosphere. As if sensing that feeling in our group, the ground crew kept reassuring us along the way. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about anything. It's all okay. Sure, easy for them to say, I thought. They get to stay here on the ground. During our preparation, we had gone up 11 flights of the gantry to see what it would be like when the rocket was there. We were then escorted into a thick cement room with oxygen tanks. What's this room for? I asked casually. Oh, you guys will rush in here if the rocket explodes, a Blue Origin fellow responded just as casually. A safe room, 11 stories up in case the rocket explodes. Well, at least you've thought of it. When the day finally arrived, I couldn't get the Hindenburg out of my head. Not enough to cancel, of course. I hold myself to be a professional, and I was booked. The show had to go on. That and the Hindenburg crash. Then there was a delay. Sorry, folks, there's a slight anomaly in the engine. It'll just be a few moments. An anomaly in the engine? That sounds kind of serious, doesn't it? An anomaly is something that does not belong. What is currently in the engine that doesn't belong there? More importantly, why would they tell us that? There is a time for unvarnished honesty, I get it. This wasn't it. Apparently, the anomaly wasn't too concerning because 30 seconds later, we were cleared for launch and the countdown began. With all the attending noise, fire, and fury, we lifted off. I could see the Earth disappearing. As we ascended, I was at once aware of the pressure. Gravitational forces pulling at me, the G's. There was an instrument that told us how many G's we were experiencing. At 2 G's, I tried to raise my arm and could barely do so. At 3 G's, I felt my face being pushed down into the seat. I don't know how much more I can take of this, I thought. Will I pass out? Will my face melt into a pile of mush? How many G's can my 90-year-old body handle? And then suddenly, no G's, relief, zero, weightlessness. We were floating. We got out of our harnesses and began to float around. The other folks went straight into somersaults and enjoying all the effects of weightlessness. I wanted no part of that. I needed to get to the window as quickly as possible to see what was out there. I looked down and I could see the hole that our spaceship had punched into the thin blue-tinged layer of oxygen around the Earth. It was as if there was a wake trailing behind where we had just been, and just as soon as I noticed it, it vanished. I continued my self-guided tour and turned my head to face in the other direction, to stare into space. I love the mystery of the universe. I love all the questions that have come to us over thousands of years of exploration and hypothesis. Stars exploding years ago, their light traveling to us years later. Black holes absorbing energy, satellites showing us entire galaxies in areas thought to be devoid of matter entirely. All of that has thrilled me for years, but when I looked into the opposite direction, into space, there was no mystery, no majestic awe to behold. All I saw was death. I saw a cold, dark, black emptiness. It was unlike any blackness you can see or feel on Earth. It was deep, enveloping, all-encompassing. I turned back toward the light of home. I could see the curvature of the Earth, the beige of the deserts, the white of the clouds, and the blue of the sky. It was life, nurturing, sustaining life, Mother Earth, Gaia, and I was leaving her. Everything I had ever thought was wrong. Everything I had expected to see was wrong. I had thought that going into space would be the ultimate catharsis of that connection I had been looking for between all living things, that being up there would be the next beautiful step to understanding the harmony of the universe. In the film Contact, when Jodie Foster's character goes out to space and looks out into the heavens, she lets out an astonished whisper. They should have sent a poet. I had a different experience because I discovered that the beauty isn't out there, it's down here with all of us. Leaving that behind made my connection to our tiny planet even more profound. It was among the strongest feelings of grief I have ever encountered. The contrast between the vicious coldness of space and the warm nurturing of Earth below filled me with overwhelming sadness. Every day we are confronted with the knowledge of further destruction of our Earth at our hands. The extinction of animal species, of flora and fauna, things that took 5 billion years to evolve, and suddenly we will never see them again because of the interference of humankind. It filled me with dread. My trip to space was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it felt to me like a funeral. I learned later I was not alone in this feeling. It is called the overview effect, and is not uncommon among astronauts, including Yuri Gagarin, Michael Collins, Sally Ride. And many others. Essentially, when someone travels to space and views Earth from orbit, a sense of the planet's fragility takes hold in an ineffable, instinctive manner. Author Frank White first coined the term in 1987. There are no borders or boundaries on our planet except those that we create in our minds or through human behaviors. All the ideas and concepts that divide us when we're on the surface begin to fade from orbit and the moon. The result is a shift in worldview and identity. It can change the way we look at the planet, but also other things like countries, ethnicities, religions. It can prompt an instant reevaluation of our shared harmony and a shift in focus to all the wonderful things we have in common instead of what makes us different. It reinforced tenfold my own view of the power of our beautiful, mysterious, collective human entanglement. And eventually it returned a feeling of hope to my heart. In this insignificance we share, we have one gift that other species perhaps do not. We are aware. One, two, three, four, eight. It returned a feeling of hope to my heart. In this insignificance we share, we have one gift that other species perhaps do not. We are aware, not only of our insignificance, but the grandeur around us that makes us insignificant, that allow us perhaps a chance to rededicate ourselves to our planet, to each other, to life and love all around us, if we seize the chance. There's another story from my life that parallels this. I remembered the fellow's name recently. I was reminded of it. My friend David Nickel, whose sister I was in relationship with for 7 years. It was with her that I traveled the world. I went to India, did my first retreat. But anyway, he is a psychiatrist, and he did psychiatry training at the Menninger Foundation in Kansas City. And he asked me to come to create the container of the conference. And it was 300, mostly doctors. And so we started with meditation, and between speakers, we'd have a meditation and so on. But what I wanted to speak of was the keynote speaker. And I wish I could remember his name. He's still alive. I looked him up. Who came in cowboy boots, like Kitzhaber. He came in cowboy boots, went up to the stage and had the microphone. He looked around very calmly, and then he said, "You know, we have all been subject to a great hoax. Most people believe that human beings have walked on the moon, and it's a lie." And then he went on for 5 minutes about how this lie had been perpetrated. And he's in a room, right, with 300 scientists, and it got more and more tense. And he paused a long time again, and then he said, "Of course, spacesuits have walked on the moon, but inside was the Earth." He is still the director of an organization, a conservation organization in the prairies, in the middle of the country, where they're planting the original grasses. The grasses, when the invaders came, were taller than us. They were 6 to 7 feet high. You know, we have old growth forest. We call it climax forest. These were climax grasslands, right? The most efficient possible use of that land. And he's been at it now for 30 years. So, powerful stories, huh? We're actually alive. We are the cambium layer. You know, in trees, there's this little, I forget, is it 1 or 2 cells thick? That's all that's alive in a tree. All the rest of it's dead. And that's where everything, well, that's, of course, a lot happens up in the canopy. And here's a little fact I learned from a fellow at Hollyhock who's still there, Bill the naturalist. He was driving me to the ferry. This must be 20 years ago. And he said something that I had never considered, which was, you know where the trees get all the matter to build their leaves and branches out of? From the air. It's not from the ground. Water comes from the ground, but the trees, through photosynthesis, break apart air and grab the carbon. They sequester carbon, and they build themselves from that. And then when you burn it, of course, then that's released. It kind of blew my mind, this process, right? It's a beyond imagining that such a thing exists. And then look at us. Can you imagine anything of this complexity existing? I mean, it's beyond imagining. That's why in the medical world, there are specialists who specialize in the tiniest thing, because it's so complex, they have to specialize in it to begin to understand it at all. So I want to make a connection and I have a little difficulty with the paradox of it. So let me see if I can do it. It never really quite came clear. But there's a piece, a huge piece, that William Shatner was missing, that the Buddha got, which is that ultimately there's no difference between space and life on the earth. It's all made of the same thing. They're opposite ends of a paradox. And so we go through our lives very convinced by the song of the self. I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. These are my neurotic worries. These are my neurotic fears. This is the way I make sense of my life. And what do you think? And we're so convinced of these stories that we actually kill one another over them. Right? Right now, there's artillery flying back and forth in Ukraine. Right now. There are 5 other wars or 6 other wars going on in the world right now. Because of this case of mistaken identity, we think we are this, and we we have a loyalty to a certain group. I've often wondered if someday I'd get in trouble for this, but I never have so far. I was born in Montreal, half French. My mother was French Canadian. I was there till I was 21. And then I signed onto a ship and I went to Australia. And on the way, I visited Japan and Hong Kong. I was 20 years old, 21. Hong Kong, Singapore, and then I was in Bali for a month before there were international flights in Bali. I got there on a landing craft from Java. Then I got very sick. Then I lived in Australia for a year, and I loved Australia. I was a cowboy in the outback. I actually rode horses and pushed cattle. And then I was in New Zealand for some time. I fell in love with each of these places. And then I went to, I signed on to another ship and went to Europe where my girlfriend met me. And we lived in Switzerland for 2 years. I was a ski patrolman for a year, and then I did blood research in Geneva for a year. We saved our money and we went overland from Switzerland to Italy to Yugoslavia, to Greece, and to Yugoslavia, to Greece. And then from there, we went to Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka. That's when I ran into meditation. When I left Switzerland, I had 2 flags on my pack. One was the Canadian flag, and the other was Canton Uri, the state of Switzerland that I was so in love with. Then I came back, and I've been other places in the world, Costa Rica last year. And patriotism is insane. It's a complete madness. This is a heresy to say, right? I want my guns and I want my country, and but it's completely insane. Like so many other things that we human beings do, because we take illusions, fantasies, as facts. So one of the illusions that we live with, oh shoot, it's 12:06. Jeez. Oh well, how did that happen? All right. Ha. Oh dear. Now shame. I'm having a little shame. How interesting. Okay. I'm going to take 5 minutes to pull it all together. The Buddha said again and again, are you really this? Is this really what you are, what you think you are? What about the fact that it's going to die? What happens to you then? Well, let's create theories. Let's create religions. But he said, instead, why don't you train your consciousness? Why don't you develop mindfulness? Why don't you tune into the mindfulness that already exists, because it's there before us? And discover that your body is completely porous. It's impermanent to the max. The body has sense stores, and those sense stores come into contact with their sense objects, and they create feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, and indeterminate. And they are utterly permanent too. Just watch it today. How many likings and dislikings your mind goes through? The mind goes through. And then we look around and we create perceptions. We create little stories about things, and from our perceptions we create things to cling to. We create countries. We create other persons. And then in the mind, there are these sankharas, these mental formations. These. How about the story of your life? Right. This is what happened to me when I was a child. That kind of story. And we create those, and then we cling to them as though they were real, solid. And then consciousness. There's a moment of hearing consciousness. Or you're sitting in meditation and you're totally present. And then gone. Gone for a minute, a second, a week, a year, and then back. What happened to the consciousness? Nowhere in this is there found any stability. We patch it together through not paying attention, but it's all impermanent. So, on the one level, I'm a great fan of loving each other. It really is the only game in town. Without that, what is the point? Right? Well, I have a really big house. I have a gated community. I went to the edge of space. Who cares? But when I meet you, do we meet and see each other as precious, one-of-a-kind beings? And that's exactly what the Buddha taught. That if we can dissolve this selfishness that's so natural for us as mammals, dissolve that, and then actually meet one another, what we can do, right? What can we do? Well, there, I guess I'm saved from the fact that explaining the fourth aggregate is kind of hard. I got by by running out of time. Brilliant. So, funny. Normally I keep better track of time. So I want to end with a practice from the Sufis, and I think let's just do it sitting down, because if we stand up, I'll get lost on the screen here. Interesting inner talking. One of the things that's most critical is that we learn to observe thoughts as thoughts and not believe them, because we can believe absolutely contrary things within 2 minutes of each other. And so I'm having you certainly lost track of time. That wasn't very skillful. Oh, here's a good one. Joseph Goldstein, would Joseph have lost track of time? Would Jack? Possibly. Would Ruth? Absolutely. She was difficult on the cooks at the retreat center she went to, because she'd run over by half an hour or 40 minutes, and the cooks were pissed, and she didn't care. All right, let's do this. Let's close with this wonderful little practice. It's from the Sufis, the mystical side of Islam. In Islam, there are 99 beautiful names of God. In fact, if you go into the Dharma hall on your way out and look on the east wall, there's a goat skin behind plastic that I purchased at Rumi's tomb in Konya. And it has incredibly beautiful Arabic written on it. And it says, I'm told, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin in the name of Allah, whose names are compassion and mercy. It's the beginning of most Islamic prayer. Well, there's 97 others, beautiful names of God. And one of them is Yashakur. And we're all facing this way, I think. I'm going to have you stand. And you on Zoom, if you can turn your pictures on, it would work better, but you don't need to. In the practice is you put your hands over your heart and you let the heart energy fill your hands. And then when you face someone, you say, Yashakur. And Yashakur says this: how exquisitely God is manifesting to me in this moment as you. Now, if the God word is a problem, how exquisitely the mystery is manifesting as you. And we'll do it 9 times. So I'm going to stay here with you folks on the screen. And if you want to come over and do it with me, that'd be nice. So I invite you to stand. And then turn to face someone and then do the greeting. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. Go to another person. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. 4 more times. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. How exquisitely. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. 2 more. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. Thank you, dear friends. If you're in this room, please stay for coffee and tea if you wish. Lovely of you to come. And if you come next Sunday, we'll be in the Dharma Hall with fancy new furnaces. Happy trails. Thanks for coming. And thank you, dear friends on Zoom. I see you. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thanks, Robert.
Lovely to
Ya
see you.
Shakur.
Ya Shakur.
Ya
Here we go.
Shakur.
Ya
Ya Shakur.
Shakur.
Or